Let me make sure they cannot unmute themselves. You're not allowed
Oh
to
my,
unmute yourself. Yeah.
that's a lot of people. Oh my, I'm feeling shy, feeling stage fright.
Oh, 20 people. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, well, we'll start this thing. Hello, everybody. As you may or may not know, I'm known as Eli the Computer Guy. I have a project called silicondojo.com where I'm trying to educate people about the real world of technology. The big issue that I'm finding nowadays is everybody wants jobs in technology, but they have absolutely no idea what the hell it is that we actually do. And so I get into these really inane conversations about basically trying to give people advice. So bringing real people on, we have Louis Rossmann today, bringing real technology professionals on to talk about the real world of technology, so that when somebody says, "What do you want to do in the world of technology?" you, for the love of God, don't say computers, because that just does not help anybody. Let's see here. You will notice when you do informational interviews, people are actually very happy generally to do informational interviews. Go have a cup of coffee with somebody. Make sure you know why you're doing it. You don't just go and have a conversation with somebody just so you can have a cup of coffee. Like, what are you trying to get out of it? I have a whole bunch of questions here, as I show you folks all the time. If you have a question, what we're going to do nowadays is put it in the chat stream. Put your question in the chat stream. If we need more from you, I'll unmute you, but that's a way for you folks to be able to ask questions. And if you're interested in knowing more about these in the future, you can go to silicondojo.com. And with that, we have Louis Rossmann here. How you doing today? As we get a close up of your forehead.
Lovely, they're doing great. Enjoying my balcony as contractors ravish my house. So, yeah.
Fair enough. So I guess that's the first question. So there's like this big question nowadays about where should you set up shop as a technology professional. And so as a homeowner, contractors are going to be the biggest thing in your life. So how do you find Texas contractors for home renovation?
If it's somebody that I know because I met them through it's the same thing that I deals with work. So the reason that I don't like putting out job ads is because when I put out a job ad, it's kind of like going on Tinder. I have no idea who you are. Like when you go on Tinder, you're gonna find somebody who says, I like sports and I like people who are nice and I like eating and I like going out, but you're not like I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in, are you emotionally available? Do you park in handicapped spaces? Are you mean to the waitress because you think nobody is looking? Like the things that I care about, you're not going to put in the Tinder profile. And the same thing is true when I'm hiring. I prefer seeing what other people have done in I like seeing the work that somebody's doing for somebody else, getting a feel of how they do their job in a place where they feel like I'm not really judging them, or I'm not in a, and then determining whether or not I think that you're going to be a good candidate. And then as time goes on, when they tell me, "Oh yeah, I make $38,000 a year," and I say, "Oh well, I could use somebody who does what you do. By the way, I can give you 80 for this in healthcare or something." That's the type of conversation that leads to me finding somebody good. I have absolutely no idea how to read a resume and figure out if somebody's good at their job. I've never been good at that. I still am not good at that. And in the process of hiring contractors, it's really the same thing. I I would talk to the building manager for my ex-boss who was a billionaire, and I would tell him about the things I was going through with my house, and he would give me advice. And every now and then I would ask him, "Who do you know somebody who is off work occasionally, or who with contracting? Usually the way it works is there are times when they have nothing to do, and if you're willing to wait for when this particular person doesn't have some project booked, I can then get somebody who's really really good at their job and who would just do who is completely vetted. So I would ask him, and every time I would do that, it would go well. And every time I try to hire somebody by just Yelp, Google reviews, Craigslist, TaskRabbit, it's just you get I said I can do that. I didn't say I will do that. And it's like, yeah, okay. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Fair enough.
It just
So what do you find though? Like, because you came from New York, so anybody who doesn't know, like, we're not going to go too much into your history since you've been on the show before. So you came from New York City. You are a New York City boy that has moved to Texas. So you have done like the quintessential thing over COVID. So like with contractors, because you had renovations done in Texas or in New York, do you find any difference? Are you like, I wish I dealt with New York contractors, or Texas ones are better, or they all suck?
Oh no, I mean in New York City, it's different because if you want anything done properly, you're likely doing it in a way that's illegal. Just because the people who are going to do things using the legal process and going through all the permitting and everything else are going to tell you that a job is $150,000 that everybody else will want $20,000 for. So the thing that I kept running into in New York City is this reminder that if I ever want something to be done properly, I'm either doing it like I don't. The fundamental thought that bothered me about New York is that if you're worth less than $4 to $10 million, you just feel like you're broke, and it gets tiring after a while to have this constant reminder. Yeah, I didn't move here specifically out of some like horrible. But I mean, to be clear, I had not liked a lot of things about New York for a long time. But me moving here had more to do with opportunity than it did with some sort of ideology. Or I, I'm not excited about abortion bans and things like this. I moved. I think the reason that people should move is because there's economic opportunity, and that's why most people move. There was a job available for me here. I was talking with somebody who wanted to build this technology company. He is the person who donated to my first nonprofit. I saw what he was doing here. I saw the potential it had. I saw what he was doing with that potential. We talked for a while, and there was an opportunity, so I moved. But like, I'm not going to choose a place to move because I like I don't know, I like the of one particular politician or something like that. Like I think people move because there's an opportunity for them to solve a problem or for them to make money in that area. That's why I moved.
So, but it's a big. I mean, like New York City. If nobody's been there, fuck me. I mean, I'll never go there. But New York City and Austin are two entirely different worlds. Like, is there is there any differences about Austin you like not having as many permits or whatever is good? But like, because a lot of people are talking about moving from California to Texas, that type of thing. Is there anything that you in particular you enjoy there?
I like the fact that you can live in the absolute middle of nowhere and be 25 minutes away. Whereas in New York City, if you want to be someplace where you're not crushed like a sardine in a tin can, you have to live an hour and a half away with rush hour traffic. So here I can live someplace where I have space. I can have a fish pond in my backyard. I can have a balcony, but I'm still only 25 minutes from downtown. The main thing is there's not a lot of people here. It's like I meet people here, sometimes they'll say that it's very, very busy and I'm not used to this. And I'll ask where they're from, and I Google it, and it's a town of 2,000 people in somewhere in Texas. Whereas for me, it's weird because I'm going from 8.5 million people to city with 800,000 people. So there's a massive difference there. And so like for here, I feel like it feels empty by contrast. New York City was the best place for me to be for that point in my life. I don't know where else somebody who's 19 years old could put up Craigslist ads and pull tab signs and sit in a park with a soldering iron and an extension cord and start making $1,000 a week out of nowhere in the mid 2000s, like with no education, just out of the Great Recession. It was a great place to be. You have 8.5 million people in a space the size of Knoxville, Tennessee, from all walks of life, and it served its purpose at that point in my life. I would not have wanted to be in Texas or in Austin or almost any other part of the U.S. when I'm 19 years old. But now it's like I'm 36 years old. I have a business already. I have mailing business already. I have other ways of making money. So I don't want to be a sardine in a tin can anymore. And I'm not getting the benefit out of it as much. So when another opportunity opened up, that's when it made sense to leave. I think, but the idea of people just saying like, I'm going to move here because cost of living is 10 or 15% less is short-sighted and ludicrous. And when I read online, when people try to assume why it is that I left New York, I think they're all very short-sighted and usually ideologically driven. Like they'll say he moved there because he's a hardcore Republican, which I'm not, but he moved there because he's a hardcore Republican who evade taxes and everything else to save on taxes. And it's just that's insane. I mean, okay, so I save what 6 to 9% on income tax, but I went from 8.5 million people to 800,000 people. There's so much risk involved in taking a business that primarily has walk-in clientele at the time, moving it across the country to a place with 90% less people for 8% less taxes. I mean, that's just no business owner thinks like this. And I don't know if they're just saying that because they're angry at why they perceive that I left, or if they just actually believe that to be the case. But it's not even close. Like that, I don't care about 8 or 9% in taxes one way or the other. I care about consistency. So in New York, when I got this,
I mean, 8 or 9% is a pretty decent amount. So as a technology business owner, you don't give a shit about 9% in taxes?
it's irrelevant when you're talking about the difference between 8.5 million people as a customer base versus 800,000 people as a customer base. So if you're talking about the difference of if you're talking about a difference in like hundreds of percent in terms of people who are going to potentially be a customer base, and 8, 9, 9% in taxes, it really is a rounding error.
Yeah.
Like I moved because of consistency. So it's not about lower taxes. It's I don't get something in the mail that says you may owe us $1.2 million because we made a mistake. And when we we have this misinterpretation of this tax code that I have to fight for a year and a half. Because when that happens, start losing my hair. And like I'm at the point in my life where I'm okay with making less money if I'm losing less hair. So ironically, my actual main company makes less money since I moved here. However, I am happy, and that is what matters.
That works. So with going to Texas, so like I know when I was talking to you, especially years ago when I was doing more normal business stuff, you would talk about the regulatory environment and you would talk about like these permits and these things. And I didn't even grasp what the hell you were talking about. It was like such a different world from Baltimore. Baltimore is pretty simple. As long as you send in your sales tax information once a quarter, you were fine. Are you finding any weird regulatory stuff in Texas? Is there anything like in the regulation world that kind of took you by surprise being there?
No, I think I'm somewhat too new to know all of it, but no. I remember when I actually called the state comptroller's office to ask them about one of the issues that I had that was contentious during my year and a half long New York state audit. And I got somebody on the phone within less than 7 minutes who told me exactly how to make sure I'm in compliance with the law. And she said, "You sound like kind of unsure of it." And I'm like, "Yeah." It's just like, what if we sent you something on a letterhead that said, "Here's how you're supposed to comply with it," so that if you get audited, you can just show them this letterhead. And I'm just like, really? Like you're gonna tell me how to follow your own laws? Because I have videos with 500,000 views on YouTube where I'm calling New York State and New York City agencies asking how do I comply with this law, and they can't tell me. And that it's not about the number in taxes. I would happily pay more taxes to be in New York City because there's so much more money there. Like the amount it's like the penny wise, pound foolish kind of thing to care about taxes in that regard, at least for a business like mine. It's not about the amount I pay in taxes. It's about certainty. And it's about knowing that somebody's just not going to come along and say, like, we would like to grab more than your entire business and you are worth because of this misinterpretation of tax code. And then like even if I kind of win, I don't care if it's not about whether I win, it's about the stress that I feel for the year or a year and a half that is going on, and I just don't want to do it anymore. And like I'm lucky enough that I have the luxury to. I didn't have the luxury to do that when I had $200 in my bank account and nobody knew who I was. So it really is a luxury to be able. It's not like I moved here because it's cheaper. It's a luxury to be able to move across the country to someplace else to be more relaxed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Have you thought though, like, I mean, Texas has big cities, Dallas or Houston or any of that. Have you ever thought about like relocating from Austin to somewhere else, even in Texas?
The quality of life for me living in some place like Houston, I don't. Have you been to Houston? It's no, it's very it, every like there's nothing is walkable. And here, for instance, here you have to drive to see things, but like there's scenery. Whereas in Houston, you're spending so much of your time on a highway. It's the weirdest place in the world. I remember I had to go to a convention there, and I saw a store, and I could see the store, not with binoculars. I could read the sign, but the only way for me to get there was to drive. And I just thought there's no way in hell that this is less than a quarter mile away. I should be able to walk there. And I tried to walk there and I almost died. You can't. It's this weird isolating feeling because you have what Houston tried to do is they tried to make a walkable. They tried to make New York City, but with car infrastructure, and they tried to make that scale. And like God bless them, they tried. It's not for me.
Okay, fair enough. So the first important question, since you are in Austin, when are you going to be on the Joe Rogan show?
Ha. Probably never. I know Rich Rebuilds, who has been on the show a few times,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I've talked to him. I spoke back. I emailed in a few times asking. I don't like when people spam me, so I'm not going to spam in. But I asked about being on the show a few times. At one
yeah,
point, I heard back from his producer something like, "Oh, like yeah, he knows who you are." It was like a 1 or 2 sentence long email of "Yeah, he knows who you are," and
yeah.
I took that as a polite like you can stop spam. Yeah, like just
Oh,
uh,
oh, fair enough.
I have not, I haven't watched. I used to watch a show between 2017 and 2020. I haven't watched much since April 2020. Apparently, I've missed a lot. I don't have anything against going on that program. Like I'll speak to almost anybody about the issues that I talk about if it means they're going to get out there to more people. But yeah.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so at the end of the day, we're going to talk about FULU. So you had the Mac repair company, the component level. We're not going to get into that. And then you moved out, as far as I understand, you moved to Austin for Futo, Futo. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what
So I was
was
some
what
lack.
is or what was Futo? And are you still part of Futo?
I worked there from 2022 to the beginning of the year.
Oh,
So it's just one second. Let me see if you did you go away. What happened to my Zoom window? Ah, you still there?
yep, I'm still here.
Oh, I minimize. Okay, I hit the wrong button to minimize it. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's just a company that wants to make software that doesn't abuse people. It was
Yeah.
started by somebody who, for the lack of, there are a lot of things that I realized I had in common with Aaron. Like sometimes we disagreed on things, but the main things we have in common are when somebody tells us that we're not allowed to do something, there's just this natural why. Why am I not allowed to do that?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of this kind of oppositional defiance is a good thing. It's sometimes a bad thing, but for a lot of things, a good thing. And one of them is when somebody says the internet is really just supposed to be ad supported at this point, give up. He's no, or you're not going to make any money investing in this. That would be stupid to invest in. Why do that? And he's like, well, no. Nobody's going to pay for this. Nobody pays for open source anything. Like you're an idiot for trying to do this. And he's like, well, no. And I like that. I respect that about him. So he
Yeah.
wants to make, he's a programmer that's been programming since he was 5 or 6 years old. He wants to make software that doesn't abuse people. I think that's a noble goal, but I learned a lot while I was working there in terms of trying to manage small software projects or like try like, helping Image make a roadmap or onboarding people like them or the guy making the Futu voice and keyboard and talking with the people that they were giving out grants to.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. So, out of curiosity, though, so I mean, you have that technology business, and I mean, the modern world is all code. If you were given that opportunity to learn how to help support and manage those projects, why aren't you going into like creating a development company or like a startup? Why aren't you creating like the next Facebook or something?
I'm not a programmer. I
No.
don't, yeah, I don't, it just doesn't seem to fit the storyline. It's
Yeah.
not what I'm like. There's a lot of programmers out there. I don't know what problem that I would solve. I don't know if it's the best use of my skill set. And I don't think that I'm actually going to be remembered as a tech person at all in like 5 or 10 years, really. I think that I would like what I enjoy about what I do is I like MacBook repair, component level repair. I don't give a shit about running wires underneath chips. That's not fun. I don't like reballing a chip with 2.5 millimeter balls or scraping corrosion. I like the intersection of three items. And I think if you're going to choose something to do for the rest of your life, yeah, it's not what am I passionate about or like what are the things that I like about what it is I'm doing. So the three things that I like are I like helping people that otherwise wouldn't have been helped. I like solving puzzles and I like kicking bullies in the shins. So like everything that I've done that's been successful, it's kind of been the intersection of that. So when Apple tells somebody it's going to be $2,000 to fix something, it's going to take 2 weeks and you're going to lose your data. And we say it's a few $100s and it takes 45 minutes. I'm helping somebody that wouldn't have been helped. I get to solve a puzzle because that is a puzzle, board repair, and you're kicking somebody in the shins, which is Apple when they tell you here's why. Like when they that's the thing that Aaron and I had in common, which is like the board repair portion of my channel. That entire thing of filming all that started out of one of my customers saying that if Apple tells you that they can fix the board without replacing it, that they're probably scamming you. And when one of my customers, and that was what bothered me in the beginning, because like it was kind of like being a therapist that listened to like 20 different people talk all about the same person that roofied them. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like I'm listening to somebody describe this scenario over and over again. Like they told me this, they told me that, they told me this is going to be 1,200, and I figured out it's like a wire, a basic wire. They told me it's going to be 2,000. It's like a fuse. It's after, so when I started hearing them do the fear mongering thing, that's what bothered me. So me making those videos was just, I'm just going to kick you in the shins. Like I'm tired. You, oh, really? I'm a scammer? Okay, let's go. Let's make. So, and I think he was kind of the same way that he's just sick and tired of the like he when he worked at Yahoo, he was part of that ad supported world. All these companies he's invested in have kind of gone into these privacy invading ad supported completely business models, and he just wants to try something the opposite and to kick them in the shins. Uh, like with what I do right now. I just don't think that's the story arc for me. Like the story arc for me, I think, is going over the fact that you don't actually own what you bought and paid for. Like what's after right to repair? Because like right to repair is there's this umbrella of ownership, and then like right to repair is for consumer electronics is a teeny tiny portion of it, and then right to repair for medical equipment, tractors, everything else is another. But then the overarching umbrella is this whole concept that Like 20 or 40 years ago when you bought shit, you owned it. And now you don't own it. And I don't see people talking about that and pushing back against it or organizing to push back against it or documenting it. And the consumer rights organizations or the consumer protection organizations that should be protecting people from this are not doing it. The organizations that review these products and talk about these products are not educating customers, either because they don't know any better about it or just because they all want to be brand safe influencers that make sure that they get the next sponsorship. Whatever it is, nobody's talking about it. So when I look at what I want to do, it's not about what I'm passionate about. It's about what do I think the world actually needs. I think the world needs somebody to point out this stuff right now and kind of go all in on this more so than it needs another programmer or another software developer. There are so many people out there that develop software that are so much better than me. And that's what I think is important if somebody's choosing a career. There are many, I'm not a good engineer. I'm not good at soldering. I'm definitely not good at electronics repair. I was good enough and there was nobody doing the specific niche that I was doing. So let me try to get as good at this as I can because nobody else is doing it properly. So it's finding the things that the world needs done. When I was younger, I wanted to be a loudspeaker engineer. Nobody needed that. I wanted to be a recording engineer. Definitely nobody needed that. I wanted to be a therapist. The world had enough of that. But like, what the world needed was a component level backboard repairman. And I don't think what the world needs right now is somebody with my low level of skills at being a software developer to create a software company when there's millions of people infinitely more talented and qualified who are excited to do that. I was sitting there working on this wiki, knowing I have no idea if this will ever make money. I do not care if this will ever make money. And I was staying up until 1 in the morning working on it because I thought that I was doing something that people actually found valuable that the world needed. So that's what drives me. And I don't.
Ah, fair enough. So does Futu, so you said you've now left Futu. So is Futu dead or did you hand the reins over to somebody else?
That's not dead. I just had a basic job there. So
Oh, I thought you
I
were the
actually
executive, I don't know. I thought you were the CEO, executive director or some.
it's like a direct. It's kind of like director, but like it has this thing like Model Sporting Goods had where like everybody's an associate. Like you when you hear associate, you think associate at a law firm, but
Yeah.
then when you worked at Models, when I got my price gun on day one, I was an associate.
Yeah.
And I think he trusted what I had to say more than others, and I really liked the impact that I had there. But I wasn't like the CEO or anything. That was Aaron. My old store manager Steve
Yeah.
actually has what used to be my job now. So that was yeah, and he's a very trustworthy person.
Yeah.
So like
Ah,
I want to run on and do this stuff. I want to try and do all this other stuff. I'm excited about it, and I think that Steve would better serve Aaron right now than I would do in that job because I'm not going to be fully focused on it because I'm excited about what I want to do. And I
that's
think what Aaron wants and what Aaron needs is somebody that's focused and excited about what he wants to do. And Aaron wants to do a bunch of different things. I'm excited about this one area where I think him and I align on certain items.
yeah.
So focus on that.
So, okay, so there's Fudo, so you step away from that. And then when I look at your LinkedIn thing, then you've got Repair Preservation Group. So what's that in all this mess?
So I spent about 5 or 6 years going to these legislative hearings and recording them and trying to get right to repair passed. I always saw it as a win-win. If I win, I get a bill passed, which is great.
Yeah.
And if all these people show up and say that microwaves will explode and magtrometers are going to fly out at you, people will listen to this bullshit and then it loses anyway. Then I will get people excited about it and aggravated and excited to show up. There's this rule on the internet. You're not supposed to ask a question. You just do something wrong and you watch people correct you. And I figured that somehow that this would play out here. I can't ask people to give a shit about this. I'm just going to keep recording lobbyists saying that my microwaves are going to explode if a technician gets access to a fuse for something, and then just like kind of let things naturally progress. And that worked horribly. And then I got this phone call and this Discord message and this YouTube donation from somebody who apparently was a billionaire. And we talked on the phone, and he said like, "What would you do if you had $1 million to help with right to repair?" I'm like, well, I don't really know just yet, but I can write you a form and I can write you a letter with a list of it. And I sent that over. I didn't realize until I was working there for about 3 or 4 years, and when he searched my name in his email inbox, that he never actually opened that email, but he had given me the $1 million anyway, which is can't complain about this. I must, but anyway, so uh, I I didn't. It's one of these areas where I didn't seek to start a nonprofit. It's just if somebody says I will give you $1 million to help you with this thing, I'll figure it out. I'll come up with something to do with it other than it just sitting there collecting 4% interest. They're sitting in Facebook stock or some shit. So after I started that, that was a 501c3, but you're not allowed to lobby from them. So I went back to him and I asked, well, what I'd really like to do is try to get a ballot initiative passed. I'm tired of like showing up at these hearings, getting ignored, nothing happening. I would like right to repair to be on the ballot. Right to repair for cars or for consumer electronics or whatever. Yes or no? Because this worked in Massachusetts. They did this with automotive in 2020. It won 73 to 27. So I want to do the same thing. And that was going to cost a few $1,000,000. And he said, well, I don't know. I don't really think you should do that. Like he's kind of, so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try to do it anyway. So I do a fundraiser a month after I get the $1,000,000 for the C3, which is great. Great. I have this, but I can't lobby with it. And I raised about 900,000 or $1,000,000 from that. I didn't raise enough to do a ballot initiative. So that organization was the second one, Repair Preservation Group Action Fund. That one did is I would talk to all the people that were actually showing up to all of these different hearings, and like the people that actually showed up consistently to all of them, not the ones who were asking for money, but the people who showed up to all of them, who just sat there, did their work, wrote their research papers and everything. And that was Nathan Proctor at US Perk. But he wasn't looking for money or attention or anything else. He just actually wanted to get something done. So I asked them, so who are the people you would hire? What are the things that you would do with this amount of money? And he made a list. And every 6 months, he would make this great list. And we would go to the items. And so I would be the person who was promoting right to repair in general. I talk about it on YouTube. I'd get people riled up. I would tour the country, visit all these different repair shops, get them to show up to their legislative hearings. And he was the one who was choosing the lobbyists, drafting the bills, finding the people who would talk to the senators' aides and things like this. And it worked pretty well. There were some laws that got passed, some didn't. That nonprofit is bound to its like last $10,000. I am not going to be continuing once it's done because I feel like I put 4 years into this. The right to repair laws for wheelchairs, pretty good. For tractors, all right. For my industry, complete horseshit. They don't like. They're just mostly they're filled with they're filled with loopholes. And even if they weren't, I've realized that, and that like trying to legislate "don't be an asshole" is almost impossible. Like having a speed limit, you can do. Having a warranty must be a minimum of 90 days if you are selling devices in a retail store. Like that, you can do. Right? How do you legislate "don't be an asshole"? You could say, well, make available the same parts to us that you make available to your authorized service centers. What if your authorized service centers don't fix anything? What if your authorized service center for your iPhone 6 replaces the entire phone when your headphone jack stops working rather than replace the $5 part, right? Like there's so I've realized with the amount of now I could do another fundraiser and try to get different laws passed in different ways, but I just feel like I'd be banging my head against the wall. Like that, I put in my effort. I saw what that could do. I don't want to suck the air out of the room for somebody else who may be better at this to raise money and maybe get it passed something different than me. So the lobbying nonprofit is going to be out of money probably after I pay the last lobbyist that I choose to go with. And after that, I'm going to be closing that one. And yeah, those are those two nonprofits. The C3, it just creates educational materials for people who want to fix things. So if somebody knows how to perform a repair that's really difficult to repair, it's kind of like iFixit, but focusing on niche profitable repairs. So iFixit will say, here is how you replace the battery in an iPhone. Okay, everybody knows how to do that. My wiki will go over your iPhone 15 is randomly rebooting, and like here is how to figure out why it's randomly rebooting and then fix that problem. So my idea is if you walk into a repair shop and you have a better experience at that repair shop, you're more likely to recommend repair to other people than you are if they just look at it and go, I don't know what's going on with this. Because it may take 40 hours of research to figure out why a particular device is randomly rebooting. Like if somebody brings you a device and says this is randomly restarting, that's a nightmare, is it not? For any type of hardware, because it could be anything. So if somebody who's really smart does the research and figures that out, okay, cool. Here's $2,000 or $4,000. Will you share that info? Here you go. Now you put that on the wiki. Now, instead of a repair shop saying, no, I can't fix that, they look on the wiki. They see, is this something that we think we can fix? They can fix it. Now they can get their $50 or $100 for repairing the device. The customer is now happy. Everybody's happy. That was my thought with that, was trying to make it easier for people to do the more difficult repairs so that those more difficult repairs that you were saying no to before, you say yes to. You make more customers happy. More customers are speaking positively about repair. more repair shops making more money off repair. It's good for everybody. I found that to be incredibly difficult because this
Yeah.
is one of the only industries where people will say, if somebody else knows how to do what I do, then I may make less money. And like they may go to them. And this just, so I've always seen it as I would rather have 1% of a giant pie than like 50% of a tiny pie. And I'm trying to increase the size of the pie. And it doesn't matter how well I do as I give away all the information on what I do, I'll still talk to people that think I'm going to go bankrupt if my neighbor knows how to do a repair that I do. And it's just like, fuck my life. Imagine if every muffler shop thought that, or every body shop thought that, or every mechanic thought that. Like, what if that guy knows how to change the oil in a car? And so that's been mildly discouraging for me, to say the least. But it's
So then, just before we get to the FULU though, so with you're doing the advocacy for right to repair, so you've gotten to the end of your string or rope with that. Do you feel with that, are you stopping that because you're at the end of your story with it, or are you stopping just because you're like those walls are damn near too high for anybody? Is it that you can't do it or nobody can do it?
It's possible somebody else can do it. I would never, I can never say that somebody else can't do it just because I can't. I think that I pushed a rock up to the top of a mountain and
Yeah.
it's like I'm watching it roll down the other side. I just don't think there's much I can do pushing it. I'm not gonna, I could chase the rock down the other side of the mountain, but it would just be a photo op more than me actually. I don't think that I have a lot I can do to make that go faster down the other side. It's like when a politician shows up when there's a flood or a tornado or something someplace and like takes a picture doing this. Like it's just it's stupid and it's selfish. So when a politician shows up, when they say that this president whatever didn't even show up to this particular thing, that's actually a good thing because when a president or a governor shows up, you have to have Secret Service there. So now like how is the ambulance going to get around there? How are the construction crew going to get around there? How are the first responders going to get around when they're dealing with all the traffic as a result of all the security that's necessary for the governor or a senator or the president to show up in his rescue jacket and do this? It's silly. And I think now I could continue raising money and continue doing that, but I think it's there like the organization. I'd like to see other people do that. I mean, I think that what made this work very well in the beginning is that the people who were really, really good at getting bills passed, who really cared about this, were horrible at at making videos that get 500,000 to 1 million views and getting people pissed off enough to call their senator. And
Yeah.
I was really good at that. I have no idea what bill becomes a law. So like together we made one really, really effective person. So
Yeah.
now that part that they like that we've kind of gotten over that hump, what if I just said, I'm closing this nonprofit. If you want to still do this, here is who I think you should be donating money to, who is continuing the work. That makes more sense to me. That the fact that I don't think I'm going to like get the yeah, I don't think me chasing the boulder down the hill is going to do anything. It would just be a good photo op. But I right now I have my repair company, YouTube, two nonprofits, this new nonprofit, and at some point I may start to have a life. So it's like I should divest a little bit, like a little bit more focus would do me good.
Yeah.
So I would like to focus. I'll still read the bills when they come out, and I'll still go over them. I'm still going to talk to all the people involved with the legislative portion of it. But yeah, like I, I it's pretty much just the boulder going down a hill at this point. I want to be involved in the cultural battle, not the legal one for that particular issue.
That's cool. So are you shutting that down though, or are you handing it to somebody else? Because you're saying you're almost out of money, but you have some name recognition and that kind of thing. Have you thought about handing it to somebody else to keep trying to run it, or you're just going to kill it?
I could do that. I could hand it off. It's like I don't have a giant monthly donor list, and I've explicitly not tried to do a lot of fundraising for it in that way towards the end, because the way I saw it is like if I got $1 million to try and get this done, I want to see how much how much can I do? If
Mhm.
I spend $1 million and it's like I got access to a schematic, but I can't get the chip, that's one thing. But this again, wheelchair people got helped. I would say tractor people got helped. The average person who started where I did is
Mhm.
no better off now than they were 4 years ago. So for me to go out there and like just keep saying, yeah, give me 2 million, it'll make a difference. I just feel like a giant. Like I just don't want to do that. Like I have no problem asking for money when I believe that there's a particular effect that I can have. I don't think there's more effect that I could have there. I would maybe make the website redirect. I would probably redirect the website to something like Nathan Proctor's US perk page or something like that, and have a blog article there saying, "Here's why I think you should donate to them." But the brand, it's not the name. The Repair Preservation Group is not as a name something that matters. Like that's always been inextricably linked with Louis Rossmann. The web, like if I were to look at how many views a Google searches happen for that versus me and Right to Repair, it's like probably 1,000 to 1.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all winding down. So now we'll get you to the prime part of the show. So then FULU. So one, what the hell does FULU mean? And then two, what is FULU?
It's just four letters that sound good together. That's all it is. Just
Jesus
four
Christ.
letters that sound good together. So
You're
the
truly in the startup world. Okay.
it's okay. So while I after one day we were just sitting down in the office, and I remember Aaron at this, I'm probably misremembering small pieces of this, but he was just asking how some of the lobbying stuff was going, and said, "Oh, it's all right. So once I am done with the million, I have maybe 60,000 left at that point. I am going to hand the reins off to somebody else, and like still talk about right to repair, still do my thing, but I'm not going to be focusing on traveling the country, hiring lobbyists, or any of that type of thing." And then he's like, "What is that other law that you were talking about, the one that you didn't like?" And like, "The lock one." And I go, "Section 12(1) of the DMCA?" And he says, "Yeah." And he's like, "How much do you think that would cost to get rid of?" And I threw out a large number. And he's like, "Oh, well, do you think you could get rid of that?" And I'm like, "The last time I asked you for money, the lobby, you said no. Now I tell you I'm quitting." And you're like, anyway. So yeah. Anyway, so on to this. So Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act is a provision that prohibits coming up with solutions to break digital locks. So for instance, you have a DVD, you have a like, you remember the something like the Cohen A2 or the iPod video that was more popular back in the day. So
Yeah.
back in 2004 or back in 2005, I got the Cohen A2. This thing was so cool. It was an MP3 player, beautiful interface, played Orbis FLAC, Xvid. Anybody remember Xvid, DivX?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to be, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be old to remember what DivX was. This thing could play everything. It wasn't like an iPod video. So if I had a DVD and I wanted to then watch that DVD on while I was on the go, I could either buy a portable DVD player and then carry like 30 DVDs with me, which is ridiculous, or I could just break CSS encryption, download DVD decryptor, use Mr. Bass's software, and make a copy of it for myself, which was breaking Section 1201 of the DMCA. I own the DVD. I bought this thing. I paid for it. I paid. I will happily pay the full price for the content. I pay the full price for the media player, but I'm technically breaking the law by putting the stuff from here to here. Now, the person who tells you how to do this has technically broken the law by doing math. Because when you've broken CSS encryption, what you've done is you've done math. And at one point, the EFF had these T-shirts that they were selling, and it was the mathematical equation or the formula or something for CSS encryption. And they were selling it with the idea that this T-shirt is illegal because it's completely ridiculous. So the idea is this particular provision makes doing math illegal. But I like watching certain shows like Black Mirror, right? I don't want my Black Mirror to go away simply because Netflix gets or some streaming service doesn't have it anymore. So I buy the Blu-ray, but I want to watch it in 4K. But I can't watch it in 4K anywhere I want because none of the Blu-ray players will rip a 4K copy. Now I have one that rips a 4K copy right over there, and it's using a specific firmware version that allows me to do that. That's technically a violation of the law. So it's a law that says that you're not allowed to break a digital lock in what you bought and paid for. And I think that this law has been on the books since about 97, I think, but it's really coming more into play now. There have been attempts to try and circumvent this or to try and get around it. There was one case, Green versus DOJ. It was about somebody who jailbroke an Xbox, and once a year, everybody has to show up to the copyright office and beg and go, "Please, sir, can we please be able to fix our game consoles, please? We just want to be able to replace the CD drive if it breaks, and Microsoft doesn't give us the tool." It's so pathetic. It's a 2 or 3 hour hearing where you have to beg for the ability to be able to work on what you bought and paid for. So when it comes to right to repair, people will say, "I don't like the legislative side. You're forcing people to do things. If you want the tools, then why don't you reverse engineer it and figure it out for yourself?" because it's illegal. Because when you actually do reverse engineer it, you can go to prison for 3 to 5 years, which is insane. So this is targeting it from the other end. And also, if you can't, it comes into play now more than ever, because now more than ever, you don't actually own what you bought and paid for. You like, oh, you own almost nothing. There's a baby monitor that costs $300 or $400 that people bought because it will give you access to the stats of how your child is breathing, all this other stuff. But it had to connect to the cloud every time it booted up. And when that company went bankrupt, the company that bought them put that behind a subscription paywall. General Motors since 2016 has been collecting data on how people drive and then selling that data after they collect it to LexisNexis, that then sells it to insurance brokers and Geico, who will then raise people's rates based on their driving data. Like, you don't own the computer in your car. There are so many items that you buy and you pay for and you think you own them, but you don't. And I think that now is a great time to point this out and try and push back on this law. Even though we failed last time, do we have to fail again? And so getting people to realize that they don't own what they bought and paid for, and that this law is a part of not owning what you bought and paid for, getting people riled up to want to break digital locks is important now more than ever. For instance, the 3 stories I added to my wiki over the past 2 days. This is company Future Home. They make smart home stuff, like light switches, plugs, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, thermostat, stuff like that. And the company went bankrupt. When they went bankrupt, the company that bought them pushed out a forced firmware update to all their devices that said that if you don't subscribe, you won't even be able to have local access, not cloud access, local access. I won't be able to have this laptop connect to that thermostat that's in here. And that's insane. Now, this is in Norway, so this is not really a 1201 issue legally, but the main theme of the matter is that I want to try and push back against this concept that you don't own what you paid for. I want to do that culturally, legislatively, and informationally. So legislatively means looking at laws like Section 1201 that say that revoke your ability to get access to what you bought and paid for. Culturally, by getting to a point where the person that pushes that firmware to that device, I want there to be the same cultural shame on them that there would be if you put, like, on the front of my store a sign that said no people born in West Virginia allowed or something. Or like no Slovaks allowed, like no N words allowed, or there has to be the same cultural pushback for any of that to actually change. And legislatively, which is looking, and informationally, which is understand that people they get away with this, is because 99% of people don't get this. Most people think that Tesla is the only, and EVs are the only cars that have computers that can spy on you. They have no idea that Chevy was selling cars for over 5 years that reported everything about how you drive to LexisNexis and sold it to Geico without your consent.
Wow. So then FULU, okay, so before you've had these things, and so one was a 501c3, one was a 501c4 or whatever for politics. So what is FULU? 501c3, or is it a nonprofit?
It's
What
a, it's a nonprofit, but it's a 501c4,
it's supposed to,
not a C3.
that's
So
for politics. Okay, yeah.
yes, I want to get the final boss, like the lack of ownership. I want to attack it from every way possible. Like whether we're talking about Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or we're talking about something like what California is trying to do. So California put out a law that said if you sell something and you say use the word purchase or buy, but you have the ability to revoke access to it at any given time, you've got to change your wording or you have to be honest about it. So one example of this is VitalSource, a textbook company. You can buy a lifetime license to the textbook on their site. You can buy like 30-day, 90-day, 180-day lifetime. But in the fine print, it says that lifetime licenses typically last up to 5 years. Anybody that's ever checked what they pay for their internet connection and what they actually get knows what up to means. And typically, well, you know what typically means. It also says on supported devices. And we're not talking about a PDF file that is where I can open this on a 23-year-old computer and it'll still work just fine. When they say supported devices, they mean it has to be able to function on their particular application. Their application is going to connect to the internet. So you could pay for a lifetime license to a textbook and they could take it away from you within 8 days. And according to their terms, we're within the bounds of the law. So we wanted to test this law to see how it worked and see if it was actually being enforced, and it is not at all. California does not enforce this law at all. It's almost like it doesn't exist. We would like to push. We would like to find a test case. We would like to. So whether it's legislation that is against ownership and trying to revoke it or get around it, or we're talking about legislation that supports ownership and trying to push that more into the forefront. Either way, It's mostly focusing on the fact that you don't own what you bought and paid for. And like right to repair is really just a small subsection of the fact that you don't own what you bought and paid for anymore.
Okay. And so then the wiki. So you're really proud of your wiki. So is your wiki FULU or is your wiki something else?
The wiki is a subsidiary of it.
Oh, FULU. Okay. And what's going on with the wiki then? Because you've talked about it a little bit. So what are you doing with the wiki?
What I want to do with that is I want to try and get as many people as possible posting articles about these types of anti-ownership practices. So people, the first thing is every time something like this happens, people email me saying, look at what this messed up company did. They took away my thermostat.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, okay, like I'd love to go over this. I'm gonna take a look at it. Would you be open to writing an article for this? And I'll show them an article for this. And I'll say, you may think you suck at writing articles, and maybe you do. I'll show them the Netflix 4K article. Somebody was talking about how with Netflix, if when you pay for the 4K plan, unless you are using a very specific computer and a very specific monitor and a very specific CPU, because you can't, apparently you couldn't even use an AMD CPU and get 4K on Netflix back in, at some point. You have to use all these very specific things. You get 720p, not just 720p, but it's like a half a megabit or 1 megabit per second stream that just looks like shit. And he wrote an article that was 2 paragraphs that was virtually useless. And over time, thousands of people just this article and turned it into this beautiful 5-page thing that here's the dark pattern. Here are the items Netflix tells you need to get 4K. Here are the items they don't tell you, but that you do need to actually get 4K that they don't tell you. It was beautiful. So I want to get people when they are emailing me these issues, stop making it just about just emailing Louis and making one point of failure. Post it here. And I want to try and get as many as possible to work on editing this and curating it. I also want to get to a point of having a browser plugin where that if you are on a website of a company that's taken part in one of these practices, it'll just give you a little alert. I don't want it to be like Californian Prop 65 where I buy a chair from Amazon and it says this chair is known to cause cancer in the state of California because like that's useless, right? If I see that, I just think like either you're full of shit or I'm just going to get cancer regardless of what I do, so I give up. But if the chair said, warning, this chair contains germanium or something, I don't know, like germ, which passes the blood-brain barrier through skin after you sweat. Only chair known to include germanium or some shit like that. And I may at least Google it, the chair once, but I'll Google it, right? So I want
Yeah.
there to be an alert that pops up that then like a sentence or you should care. Like warning, voids warranties illegally using forced arbitration after compressor failure when you're on LG's refrigerator website. And then you can click and you can read this wiki that's well sourced. The idea is I want to get more journalists covering these issues and make it a mainstream issue. But journalists are, a lot of them are kind of like a lot of tech journalism is like blogging nowadays. So if I figure if we do the work for them, if we do the heavy lifting of here is on page 43 of this lawsuit, here's where this piece of evidence is and everything else, it'll make it easier for these issues to be covered by mainstream outlets if we do most of their homework for them so that hopefully we can get more people talking about this rather than just me and my small corner of the internet.
So Thomas Anderson's asking, this is good. So you have the wiki. So I'm not really sure what this wiki looks like. Is there an app you can download? Can you scan a barcode? So if I'm looking at a product, is there some easy way I can know what the practices are about this in your wiki?
I don't even have a browser extension. That's fairly far down the road now. That's like all of these are amazing ideas to have. I only officially moved that wiki over to the FULU thing about a month ago. So I would
Yeah.
love something like that, but that is
So how many
my
people?
dream is that if a company takes part in one of those practices and you Google like that particular product, like result number 2 or 3 on Google is an article going over what they did. Or like if you Google, I don't know, Knicks play picture frame or something. I'm actually curious. Okay, let me test this in real time and see how horrible it is. Let's see. Knicks play picture frame. I'm curious. This is a company that just took away your ability to use a lot of the items in your picture frame. Where is my Google foo? Oh, yeah, I'm not on page 1 yet. Oh well. Well, that my dream going on to this is that if you Google the company or the product, that like our page will be up there in the first page or so of Google. But yeah, an application that's what you were talking about reminds me of Yuka. Have you ever used Yuka? It's an application you can use in the grocery store. It actually stopped working on my phone recently, but back when it used to work, it was one of my favorite apps. You could scan something, you could see like this dressing has this thing that's known to cause cancer in this part of France based on this study from this university. You can click onto the study and it tries to give you a score based on it. Something like that would be amazing.
Yeah, okay. So then do you have other people helping you yet? I mean, is it like whether they're employees, contractors, volunteers, is it still basically just you for Fulu then?
No, I want it to be the opposite. So I want it to not be just me. One of the people that's my executive director is Kevin O'Reilly. He had helped a lot what I was doing with Repair Preservation Group and Repair Preservation Group Action Fund. He worked at US PERG, and this goes back to that principle I was telling you about, where hiring people never works for me. It just doesn't, like, if I try to hire somebody, it's like getting a date through Tinder. Whereas if I see the work that you did for another organization when you didn't think that I was judging at all, and I actually see all the work you put in, and I can see the 40-page documents you put out, and I can see the results that you have in Colorado on their right to repair bill, and I know what you get paid, for lack of a better way. And then I have this opportunity. Like, I want to grab all the people that were very good at help. I want to grab all the people that were winners, that were helping me at what I did, that did a good
Yeah.
job, and have them help me with this. So, but I'm going about that process very carefully and very selectively.
Oh. So like how many people do you have on your team now?
At this point, about three,
Yeah, okay.
but I want to scale slowly.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
I've learned
mm,
that was a lesson that I've learned, just trying to, like, get the right people, and then get the right people to work on the plan rather than like just saying, I have a plan. Okay, like, find all the people immediately.
yeah. Fair enough. And then so you're saying your one guy is the executive director. So who are you in your own organization? What title do you have?
President.
So you're president. Okay. Uh,
I've
yep.
never cared about the titles as much as I should, but like,
Yeah. Do you ever worry that'll bite you in the butt? I mean, I guess president's fine, but yeah, I do wonder like sometimes creators of things don't focus on titles, and then you don't have the right title, and you're not allowed into whatever room you need to get yourself into. You ever think about that kind of stuff, or
so far I haven't thought about that. But like, the difference between executive director versus president, or if he was president and I was executive director, I haven't thought about it too much.
yeah,
But in this case, I do want other people to be the ones that are moving things forward. So I want to be saying, here's the vision, here's what we want to do, and I want other people to come up with how to execute it. Like, I created a 29-page plan when I started the idea for this org.
yeah,
And but like, it was very much, it was, even though it was 29 pages of bullet points, it was really just kind of like scribbled on a napkin kind of thing. I want somebody who, it fills in the gaps of what I'm good at. So for instance, I dive into things head first. And like, I don't know what I would do with $1 million, but here, let me see what I can. I don't know what room I'm supposed to be in this legislative hearing building, but yeah, I'm going to show up with my camera anyway. Whereas he is more risk averse. I'm going to do all of my research. I'm going to dot my I's, I'm going to cross my T's. I'm going to sit here and read all these books on this particular law before I even speak to the intern of the assistants of the senator. Like, and I like finding people that balance me out in that way. But I want to just be setting the mission and the vision, and then have somebody else working on those other items while I look at them.
fair enough. And so with the funding, so is this all funded through your billionaire? Like how is this thing funded then? If you got is it three people plus you? Is it four total, or is it three with you?
Do you see three plus me or three with me?
Is it four total or three total? There you go.
Oh, yeah, it's four. I would say four total.
Four total. Okay. So is that all being funded through Aaron, or do you have this? Are you getting funding through other places then?
I'd like to have it funded by other. In the beginning, it was just him, but I'm already in the process of speaking with people who would be interested in it, who don't necessarily like this law, and who are also tired of the lack of ownership culture in general. So this is mostly funded by him.
Excellent. So how do you do that sales pitch? Because I do think like it's an interesting thing where you have like this idea for a 501(c)(3). You have this idea, like how have you found anything useful for getting in front of people, for selling the idea? Because I mean they're giving you money for a concept. Like they hope you do something well with it, but they don't know what's going to happen. Like how do you sell that?
Well, it wasn't a sales pitch. When he asked me how the lobbying thing was going, I said, I'm kind of winding down that thing and I'm going to hand the reins off to somebody else. And that's when he asked me, what about this other law that you don't like? So I was explicitly saying that I'm looking to stop doing this. So when I actually had a sales pitch and I wrote everything down, it was a no. But if you're asking for me to make life make sense, it doesn't make sense. It didn't. Yeah, it doesn't. I I can't make any of this make sense. My life has kind of not made sense for most of it. It's just I keep doing what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
am very honest with people. Like what do you used to say, like honesty, not transparency, but I'm very honest about everything. I say that I don't like try to change. I don't think I can. I'm not allowed to say that, so I'm not going to say that. I usually kind of try to walk into the awkwardness of, well, why do I feel like I can't say this thing?
Yeah.
And then say the thing that this is like what happens. So I have this idea if I tell the truth, whatever happens is the best possible thing. So let's say I say this and I don't get any money from you, or you tell me that's the stupidest idea I ever heard. That there's somebody across the room that's like, why was that guy such a dick? I'm going to walk over and listen to his idea. And then I meet somebody that way. So I don't have a sales pitch really. I don't have an elevator pitch because I don't think anybody makes decisions like that. I don't think I'm just gonna. I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm gonna walk up to somebody and who has no idea who I am, and in 90 seconds get them excited to give me money for a random nonprofit. I think I'm gonna do what I'm doing, and as I'm going through life and doing what I'm doing and trying to get things done, people are gonna naturally show up who are interested in what I'm doing. Those people who are interested in what I'm doing are gonna talk about it or are gonna be a part of it, and people are gonna see that, and then they're gonna want to be a part of it. And that's always what's happened, whether it was the Rossmann Repair Group back in 2010 or now. Like there was this one person at the recording studio I was at, and there's this one guy named Dino, and he always used to, he was from Louisiana. He was kind of like he had all these tattoos on him. He was kind of like, he was really, we were the complete opposites. I was a computer nerd sitting there quiet with my like the name polo shirt, and he was this like hardened criminal from Louisiana or New Orleans with all tattooed everywhere, like 20 different arrests for felonious assaults. And he was paid to clean up the studio and look after it. And he would always yell when every time a customer paid me at the end, like, "Man, Louis here making all this money, man, my rich fucker." And he meant it in a positive way. And this one person who would always walk into the studio in the back, who was a Priority Records executive a long time ago, would like look and, what do you mean he's making all this money? And at one point, when I actually like, I had a conversation with him about things, completely unrelated to this. He wanted to help me start another company, and he offered me money to help start this other company. And it wasn't. I didn't make a sales pitch, and even when he did ask about it, I had nothing related to a sales pitch. It's just I was always working. I was always doing. Every time I showed up to the studio, stuff worked. If I did not show up for a week, nothing worked. And people always realized like, there was this correlation that just naturally came in. Like it's so yeah. Out of should I learn how to make a sales pitch? Probably. But every time I go to these startup events, I don't like them. I don't like being around people who are giving me their elevator pitches. It's highly annoying. It's boring, and I know it works. I met somebody this place called Capital Factory here. It's where you have all these different startup pitches and things like that. And every now and then I go just if I'm bored and have nothing to do and I'm walking around downtown. And there was this one person that got over $4 million for this personal training AI app, which is literally just an API to ChatGPT with just some prompts added in between. It's nothing but that. He got $4 million to create a front end for ChatGPT where it literally just takes like I could get the exact same output. And I figured out how to get the exact same output that his app made just by asking the fucking question of ChatGPT. And he got 4 million bucks. And like, God bless him. He's good at what he does. It's the same thing with when you asked about the software development thing. Like, I know I can become incrementally better
Yeah.
at what I already am, but I'm not a salesman. I don't know how to make a 90-second sales pitch. And maybe I should get good at making a 90-second sales pitch. But at this point, like, but I don't, what I'm doing is working and I want to become incrementally better at all the things that I am, but I don't know how to become I don't know how to become a salesperson. And I think if I tried to, I wouldn't get the results that I want.
But like, what is your biz dev plan or your ask? So you've got Aaron, so you've got some amount of funding coming in. So if you're trying to diversify, I mean, one of the things just to think about is, I mean, are you asking for, do you want $10 checks, $10,000 checks, $10 million checks? Like when you're going to talk to other people about helping to fund FULU, like what is your target? What is your target for that? What are you trying, what ask are you trying to get out of that?
Well, the first is that they're going to be subsectioned off into different orgs for certain things. So, for instance, the Wiki project, that is going to be subsectioned off into its own little nonprofit that is initially supported by this. That is most likely going to be something where average people are going to be donating $1 or $5 because they liked an article. Obviously, it's always going to be 1% of the people using it that do that. But I would say probably one, $5, $10 ask, and maybe you'll have some kind of person like a YouTube super chat whale kind of person that comes along and gives 100 or 200 here. But I'm not expecting anybody to go up to the wiki, and I would expect most of that to be kind of like my 501c4. My 501c4 raised almost $1 million, and 99% of that was people donating less than $10. With the FULU org, that was going to be more like the C3, where it was just a lot of people donating a little bit, but most of it was one or two larger donors. For this, if I was going to be getting money from people who are, let's say, whales, it would be people who have very specific issues with 1201 from a business sense where this has screwed them. And there are business cases where 1201 has massively screwed people. Like if that I can't really discuss in a public call, but can after after your stream is over. But there are some people who have been massively screwed over by that law in a business sense that I imagine would be open to giving more. The consumer facing side and the consumer protection side is one where I would see it being mostly small donors. But in terms of coming up with a very specific sales pitch where I say, I'm going to meet this executive, and then I'm going to say this when I meet him in this hallway, 90 seconds before he gets to the elevator. I perhaps I should think in those terms, but that's just not been my effective way for me to get in front of people. It's always been, I try to enter the particular space of the person that I want to get the attention of, or I'm doing something in that space, and eventually like a conversation will naturally occur.
Yeah. So do you think
I have no idea to do, sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you.
All right. Do you think you're good at your style, or are you just really fucking lucky? Like, do you have like a style that gets you to where you're going that's just a little bit different, or are you just incredibly lucky with how this has worked out?
I don't think I'm lucky. I think I just try a lot of things, and I think that I have a lack of impulse control. And I'm not lucky because most of what I do is a complete failure. It's just I keep doing things, and if you keep doing things, like if 0.1% of them succeeds, I'm good. It's like I think a lot of people they don't like looking like an idiot, and it's okay. People don't want to be idiots. Most people don't want to look like an idiot, and I'm okay with looking like an idiot. I'm okay with feeling like a failure, and because of that, I keep trying and I keep doing all these crazy things, and I have all these crazy ideas, and so many of my ideas are complete failures. I could give you lists and lists. It would probably be a 1 hour video in and of itself. I just yeah, I do think that there's luck involved, but the luck is also like how many coin flips do you do? Do you give up after 2 or 5 coin flips? Because how many times are you going to try something and fail at it? And at what point are you crazy for actually continuing to try at something? And I think that like what some people see as genius or luck or something, a lot of it is just perhaps a lack of impulse control. I mean, like when I think a normal person in 2016, if they said Apple's law firm said that, oh yeah, this if you just remove this one video or you just enlisted a private it goes away. And then I say, well, how about I would like you to file a DMCA takedown request on it, because if you do that, you have to say why. And I want to see you say why you don't like the fact. I want you to write in that little comment box between 55 and 60 seconds in this video. It shows where the fuse is that allows the trackpad and the keyboard to work. I want you to write down that you don't want your customer to know where that is. And like, it's just in the beginning of it. When I did it was an aggravation for my customers told me that if somebody says that they can fix the board without replacing it, that they're lying to you. It was like I wanted to immediately, I didn't care about my reputation. I didn't care if I looked vindictive or silly or stupid or whatever. It's like I want to show that this person's wrong. So it's like I don't know. It's sometimes it serves me very well, and sometimes it serves me very poorly. I would see it in terms of luck. I see it more in terms of here's a great area, here's a great portion of my life or my particular approach to things that makes things a complete clusterfuck, and here's a very small, teeny tiny portion of my life where it works out very well. And if you look at it through this narrow lens of like where it works out very well, it's very easy to see it as like either luck or genius, and it really is not either of those things because I apply this everywhere, and it basically.
Fair enough. So, okay, so you're going after, so with the FULU, you're going after this one section. So when you did right to repair, you did like a national strategy to go after states and everything. So what's your strategy here? Are you actually going to try to target states like you did with right to repair, or is this completely a federal law that you have to do something about?
Did I send you that 29-page paper or no? I send you books a lot of the time, and I think you've been trained to like throw them away. Do you have an AI yet that summarizes it? You use Mozilla Thunderbird. This a plugin called Thunder AI, where you can literally make separate prompts for emails, and you could like say summarize Lewis's book, and you can make a prompt for it. I actually do have a 29. It's like 29 pages of stuff. The TLDR of it is there are a bunch of different areas where 12 where something it's not a 1201 case, but there's something that's come up that's adjacent to 1201. Or this is somebody being harmed. Like it's they're not saying that because the difficult thing with 1201 is that a somebody it's not something like how about this? If I I'm trying to think of a good example and I'm failing because I haven't had lunch yet. If I kill you, there's not like your wife has the choice to say, well, don't prosecute him. I forgive him, right? Like you're going to get prosecuted. Whereas with this, the person whose digital lock is broken has the ability to say, I don't want that prosecuted. So it's really iffy because if they think they have a shitty case or they think this is going to make them look bad, they just have the option to say, we're just going to let this one go. And the law stays as is, and rather than get challenged. So that's a very, very difficult one. It's coming. So there are a number of different cases where I would like to help people who are getting in trouble for particular instances like this, even if they're not getting in trouble from a 1201 standpoint, but they've done something that is adjacent to it or like in different states. If there's a, I should send you that 29 page thing. Yeah, or I can open it and read it. That way.
Yeah, I don't think you actually sent that to me, but you do send. But so anybody at home, like when he sends me an email, he like turns on the whole speech to text thing, and I get like this. I'll just put it to the side and like read it before I go to bed at night.
Uh-oh. Did Zoom just die? Uh-oh. Zoom, where'd you go?
Yep.
Are you there?
I see you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's funny. I went to get my documents, and when I went to get my document, Zoom froze. See, that's how long the book was.
Got to get you onto Mac. You know, there's this computer manufacturer out there called Apple. They make some fucking fabulous computers.
I actually forgot to plug my charger in, so my computer is in battery saving mode, and that's why it's slow. I have 3% battery.
Oh
Oh, I
shit.
am so out of it. It's one moment. I'm gonna get a charger. Be right back.
Fair enough. Dum 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 dum. So let's see, some questions from the beginning since he's off finding a charger. What's the agenda for the call? So the agenda, just so you all know, is I always do this. So before we call, so we have David Cox coming in on Thursday. So basically, I come up with questions that I think are relevant for the person that we're going to have on, and so I just basically go through these questions, and then we talk, we have a conversation. Plus, I answer, or we have him answer some of your questions. And Lewis is back now, or is Lewis back?
I feel cooked from Texas heat.
How hot is it there right now?
I don't know, but it's hot enough. I
Yeah.
should have brought another water out here.
Oh yeah, just so you know, your thing is doing better now because you were kind of breaking up and being a little choppy for a while. I wonder if it's because of that battery saving mode, just so you know.
Yes, it definitely helps to plug in your laptop before you do a stream.
Yes. This is
Where
the kind of technical information that we give my students. Plug in your laptop.
I don't like dealing with contractors very much.
Yeah, nobody
This
does.
is this is 1 second. I'm gonna load.
Oh yeah, no,
Ugh.
no. We were moving our laundry room literally all I needed was the drywall put. So the plumber had done some work, ripped out the drywall. So just needed somebody to put the drywall back. I got a recommendation for a guy. Literally, he came, looked at it, and said no, and walked away. And I was like, what do you mean no? And he just said no and walked out of the house. I'm like, what does that
I
fucking
I imagine it meant that he. So, what did the next contractor give you an idea of what that meant?
Well, no, I just did it. Like it was simple enough that I did it. So that's where I was like, I don't, do you not think you can charge me enough money or something? Because it was one of the things my wife didn't want me to do it. So basically we would have paid whatever the fuck they asked. But yeah, he just came in, looked at it and said no and walked out. And then I went to the Lowe's and grabbed the stuff to do it.
That's yeah. I always try to dig into what the awkward part is. Is it that you think I'm going to be mad at you if it doesn't work out? Is it a no fix, no fee thing where you don't think that you'll be able to do that? Like, what are these specific elements that make you say that this is a bad idea? What are the things that make you think that you shouldn't take this job? And sometimes just getting them to actually even be honest with me is close to impossible.
Yeah. 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 So here's a simple question while you're boxing around. Has AI helped you with the repair business, or has it helped your repair business at all?
Not really. It's interesting because I went down this rabbit hole of wanting to train something on my forum because I have a forum that has 14,000 posts from somebody that I pay to answer people's questions.
Fuck, wow.
I never finished that project, I'll be honest, because like it's like this. Again, when I said there's like a lot of different projects, I always go, oh, a squirrel, and then I find something, and then I move on to something else before I finish it, which is a problem that I've had for a very long time. But if I ask ChatGPT a board repair question or Claude, they're horrible. They may be decent at programming or giving me a basic script. They're very. I like ChatGPT and Claude and things like that because I like. I remember you had said I see the point in having a AI that's specific made for this particular purpose or this particular idea. We're going to make an AI that's specific for something like figuring out which piece of inventory should be in which part of the store at what time or something. But like a general AI that you just ask questions to is not very useful. But I found it useful for all the things that I would usually waste time on that I don't want to waste time on. Like this, if there's like a integration with that where I can integrate something with my email system, and like
Yeah.
I would take me 45 minutes to figure out how to set up from reading documentation. Documentation is made for programmers, not for people. So I like that I could just give it to it and then figure it out in 4 minutes instead of 45 minutes. It hasn't
Yeah.
really helped me as a repair company. It's not like I don't try to shove AI where it doesn't belong into everything and force people to use it. I remember giving my store manager, who's also a Kevin, access to my ChatGPT account and said, if this is ever useful to you, try it. And he tried it once or twice inside of the last 6 months. And that was that. Like it was, you could, if there's a customer who's somewhat angry, you could say, okay, right, use the principle of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People to respond to this thing. But then you have to spend so much time editing it so it doesn't sound like it was written by a chat GPT anyway, that I might as well just have somebody who's not an idiot write it themselves. It's, I use it all the time for a bunch of different things. Like, oh, and it constantly gives me interesting ideas. But it's just that, yeah, it hasn't like changed my life or anything.
Yeah.
With contractors, it has actually been quite useful because I remember saying like somebody said to do the thing like this. What is the order of operations that I should have? Or is this contractor trying to avoid me putting off a job and therefore telling me to do things in this way that is non-standard? Or is this a standard way of doing it? Like, it's useful for random questions and shit like that. It's
Yeah.
it's it's useful in a general life way, but I definitely wouldn't say that it's been a game changer in any one of my businesses.
Really? I mean, have you thought about, I mean, like building, or have you thought like in Futu, anyways, have you guys talked about, or was there any conversation at all about creating like an AI app? Because it seems like Right to Repair would be that great target audience of a lot of documentation about a relatively specific topic that as long as you created the process and created an app, you could create something pretty valuable with. Have you thought about that at all?
I have okay, when you say create an AI kind of app, like, the thing is everybody has an AI app now, and 99% of them seem like scams or shit that I wouldn't use because I could just go to chatgpt.com and use that. So what would the value add be in that particular app? So for instance, when I use Thunder AI,
Yeah.
which is part of Thunderbird. It will tag my emails for me. So you know how, when you use Outlook, you know you have focused and other, the separate folders.
Yeah.
So like I can have that in Thunderbird, but without having to send metadata to Microsoft to use Outlook, which is kind of cool. Like I can have focused and other. It'll tag my emails based on my prompt. That's cool. I
Yeah.
can have yeah, like the Futu voice thing where I can talk into my phone, which is great for when I want to send people books.
Yeah.
That's good because when like I can be on a speed walk and I could get an email from a viewer and I can
Yeah.
respond to my viewers when I used to not respond to them. Because if I said I'm going to limit this to when I'm sitting at a desk, I'm not responding to 300 emails a day. But if I can respond to people while I'm on my morning speed walk, now I can talk into my phone and respond to them. That's very useful.
Yeah.
But the AI app has to be a specific, what problem is it going to solve and what is it going to use? Like the idea of making AI app for something. I
Well,
I
but
know
that's
that AI is trendy, but what am I supposed to do with it?
well, no, but the thing is like, so do you know RAG, retrieval augmented generation?
Is that the thing where it says it's searching the internet and then basing what the response based on or
No.
something?
So what you do, I
Unclear.
mean, it's a pain in the ass. So you get all the documentation. So like if you have your wiki and other people's things, and basically you can send it through a script that will take chunks out and creates what's called an embedding, and you put this into a vector database. So when somebody asks a question, so when somebody says, I'm having this issue on a Mac overheating or something, what it'll do is before it sends everything to the LLM, it'll actually create this little math equation thing to find any of these chunks that are relatively close to what you're asking about. So then what can happen is you can have this whole database of all of this information about repair over a tremendous amount of stuff. It will then pull out like the 20 chunks or 30 chunks, whatever you configure it for, that are closest to what you're asking about. It will then send your question with all of that information to the LLM and say, with this information, can you answer this question? Blah, blah, blah.
So it's doing a lot of this. Okay, so that sounds like it's taking the stuff that I manually do to try to make the output useful and
Yeah.
then doing it itself.
Yeah.
Okay, how well does it do that? Because like I spend half of my time when I'm about to ask ChatGPT or Claude a question, going down the rabbit hole of here's the specific information that I think would be relevant for you to know to answer this. Here's like a good example. Here's a bad example. Is this good or does it just pump out useless junk?
No, no, it's good. It's how that's the cool way. That's the cool way that they're doing AI nowadays. Yeah, because like when you're using like the LLM itself. So if you use Olama, if you can use like if you use Olama with Python, because I think you said you used Olama. So if you can use a Python script, so you can add into the basically it's a query injection. And so or a prompt injection. So you can add your query plus all the additional information. And no, no, I mean that's the way the cool kids do it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I tried using ChatGPT's deep learning or learning thing or research thing, whatever the hell they call it. I know Claude and ChatGPT call it different things.
Yeah.
And everybody said, why don't you just use AI to write the article? And it was very, have you ever asked it to find you something before?
No.
Oh, it's so funny. When you ask it to find you something, it's kind of like when Trump asked Raffensperger, can you find me 13,000 votes or 12,000 votes? It does that. Like I say, find me this. It'll
Mm.
find me that, and it'll find me an article that's like. And the thing is, if it used to just make an article that doesn't even exist, which made it really obvious and easy. But now what it'll do is it'll find an article and it'll pick a quote from the article that it almost seems like if I was reading the article quickly, that little word that you just added in there was in there when it really wasn't in there. And it just kind of like it hallucinates the way humans hallucinate. And it's kind of like it's trained the same way that I am trained, which is if I want something to be there, I will will it into existence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly haven't gone down any of the app developer thing.
Yeah,
I
might be something to look at. So then final question then for Fulu before we get to some other interesting questions. So what's the runway for Fulu? Like what's the minimum length of time you would work on this and how far would you go? Is this your retirement job? I don't know.
It's a 4 to 6 year plan. I do not want to do the nonprofit thing where I have a nonprofit and then I just like take pictures with inner city children doing this and pretend that like I'm just doing this for the rest of my entire life. Like you fix the problem or you get the fuck out, or you don't fix the problem, you let somebody else try to fix the problem is the way I see it. And that's one of the reasons that with Repair Preservation Group, I said like, I'm giving myself this budget. Now,
Yeah.
if I got these things done, I will go back to my audience and ask for more. If I did not get these things done, I say, here's what I did, here are the good, here's the bad, and I let somebody else try. So for this, the runway is 4 to 6 years. So there's, and the reason that it's 4 to 6 years is firstly, even when you look at Green versus DOJ, that case was, oh my God, that was painful. Like that, it was almost, they decided that the interests of the rights holders are more important than the free speech element of it, which is insane. I mean, you the, like the fact that there is technically if they wanted to get you prosecuted for wearing that T-shirt going over CSS encryption algorithm, that's just crazy. They didn't, because if they tried to prosecute somebody for that, it would make it look completely ridiculous. But the fact that you could even question whether or not that was something that's prosecutable is insane. Firstly, the public needs to be made aware of this, because when I talk about Section 1201, what is that? Who cares? Like, I can't break a digital lock. What are you talking about? I can type the password into like to log into my computer. What do you mean digital lock? Like, nobody even knows what that actually means. So first, there has to be a push to get people to understand what this means. There has to be a lot of research done to demonstrate how these particular issues are hurting people, whether it is in the military, whether we're talking about it for farmers and tractors, medical devices, anything else. So we have to collect all these instances. That in and of itself is going to be over a year of work. There is the policy push. When you write a law with right to repair, this was a very simple one. I could just copy and paste what the car industry already did. They did all the work for like copying the automotive industry and just replacing the word car or motor vehicle with like consumer electronics. Here you would have to do a lot of that from scratch. So this is a 4 to 6 year timeline. So like there's policy research push, there is a consumer awareness push.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's but a lot of it is like just like the wiki is documenting cases of lack of ownership. We also have to document all the individual cases where something that is not a 1201 case, but could be a 1201 case, stopped you from being able to fix or do something productive in society. And there's a lot of them. It's just collecting all that information, collecting that data. The one thing we'd like to do is work with students who are taking things apart. iFixit already has these programs where students will take things apart and they will write manuals on them. And while they're writing manuals, it would be really interesting if they could also say, this digital lock is here, and here is what it does. Here is a definition of an area that you are locked out of. Here, if I were to bypass this, here's how I'd be breaking this law. So when I go to a legislator, instead of saying, I don't know, I can now say, there are 7,450 cases of where there is where I would be breaking the law by reverse engineering what I bought and paid for. It's useful to have items like this. So yeah, I would say 4 to 6 years. If I'm not successful in 4 to 6 years, then I relook at it and
Oh.
reevaluate if this is still what I want to do. But yeah, the minimum is 4 to 6 years.
So with that though, like you seem like because you've had these things in the past, it seems like it's task specific and then you kill it. Would you add to your missions with Fulu going for because like you're doing the whole breaking the digital stuff now. Would you be willing to add to that in the future, or would you rather create something entirely new for a new project?
I'd probably create something new for a new project if it came up, but I don't. Yeah, I want to try and stay in my lane in that particular area.
Yeah.
I don't. I want to avoid doing the thing where I feel like I'm not adding any value to the world, but I look like I'm adding value to the world. Because when I look at a lot of nonprofits, there are some that do amazing work and I love what they do, and then there are nonprofits where I honestly don't know what you do, and I don't want to become one of them. And I think it's easy to become one of them, and I don't want to do that.
Do you ever think you might be a little too, oh, you ever think you might be trying to be too much of a nice guy? Just knowing you for so long, and I've seen some of how you do business. Do you ever think you might be being trying to be too honest or something? Do you ever think that might be holding you back?
Yes and no. I learned to move a little in the other direction there while still being not being a piece of shit. But yes.
Yeah. All right, cool enough. So wandering off, not getting into politics itself, don't care about Democrats or Republicans. So we have these massive tariffs. God knows what the fuck they are at the moment because I literally can't keep up. One of the things I was watching one YouTuber that does computer repair, pretty good guy, and he was actually saying that the tariffs do not help computer repair and repair. And I was surprised because, however I feel about tariffs and the rest of it, the one thing I figured is that 145% tariff on a capacitor is going to be a hell of a lot less than 145% tariff on a MacBook Pro. So I figure tariffs and all that would be good for like the repair and the right to repair movement. Do you have an opinion on that one way or the other?
I do. It's going to be an uninformed opinion because I stopped following it. Because at some point, when I saw, firstly, if there's a certain level of uncertainty in what I'm doing in business, I just say I don't want to play anymore, and I just like take my ball and I leave. So if I see today the tariff's 50, tomorrow 140, maybe we're getting rid of it. I'm not importing anything. This I don't want to be at a point where I order something. I order $25,000 of stations that I'm going to sell, and
Yeah.
then I get a tariff. And then like they say, well, because it arrived on this date and the tariff happened on this date, and you ordered on that date, because you didn't read this 900-page law, you must give us $20,000. I don't want to play that game. That's a stupid game. So I look. It's not about the profit that I make. It's about the risk of what happens if I do something wrong. And the risk if I do something wrong when my profit margin is this and the tariff is going to be this is just bye-bye. So I stopped buying the items that I was worried about there. Now, I remember reading at some point that there was talk back and forth on whether or not Apple would get a tariff exemption for iPhones and items like that. If that's the case, so if I buy a part and my part has a 100% tariff, but Apple does not pay a tariff on the phone, I mean, that's just a meme. But but to be clear, I don't know what the law is exactly in that regard because I've completely stopped importing shit. I don't buy stuff from China. I buy it if I buy some, I deal with buying, let's say, recycled machines, or I go to my donor pile when I need parts for things. When it comes to the stations I was selling,
Yeah.
the person that I was buying them from, he actually is not selling them anymore. They're discontinuing the station they were making, and they're saying that they're focusing on the high end market because they realized I'm selling something for $100. Lewis sells it for 200. Lewis in his
Yeah.
own video says this is better than things that sell for 700 and 800. And they look at it, and that's the thing. When you always talk about breaking the inertia, not breaking the inertia. You broke
Yeah.
the inertia, and you got this guy to ask himself a question: why the fuck am I selling something for 100 or $150 that Lewis says is better than shit that they sell for 5 to 700? Lewis is right. So they're making a more high-end version of this station. And I asked him, what does this high-end station have? And he said something about ESD compatibility. And I'm just like, yeah, oh, okay. Okay, yeah, yeah, go away. It's like they make great stations. I love the Aten 862, and I love what they're going to come out with. It's just they're gonna want two. They're gonna sell that thing to me for like 3 times as much money, and now I have to now sell that to my audience for like twice as much money. I raised the price of it this much, and they don't. And like I get one sale a week when I used to have 3 sales a day. So I'm not going to like even if there's a 0% tariff. Let's say the tariff on China becomes zero. Who
Yeah.
cares? Because they already made the decision, right? They already decided we're stupid. Why are we focusing on this low end market when the most popular soldering repair person on YouTube is saying to everybody, this thing is too cheap? Like, well, so they've already made their decision. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And this is something that I think Republicans or people that were more conservative used to understand is that every time you introduce a new piece of legislation, every time you say, well, we're just going, like, we're going to put this tax in and then this person's going to do what they're supposed to do, that people don't do what they're supposed to do. They do what they like. That's not how this works. Every time you introduce something out there, it's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's good for the repair industry. I don't think people having to pay higher prices for things means that they can have less money in their wallet is good for anybody. I know above all, it's just the uncertainty of it. If again, it's like what I said with New York City. It's not about the high taxes. It's about the uncertainty. It's about like with Texas, I make less money, and I'm totally okay with making less money here because even though the taxes are lower, because I get to live a more relaxed life with the tariff situation. If the tariff is 50% today, 120% tomorrow, maybe it's here. Like I don't know if my customers are going to be willing to pay $100 to $200 more for this. I don't want to spend $25,000 ordering parts to figure out if my customers are willing to pay more for this. So even if it's not about like the money that I make, it's about the risk of if I do something wrong. And the risk of if I did something wrong kind of went through the roof when the tariffs came out. So I don't play that game anymore. I don't buy that stuff. I'm not reselling it anymore after I finish what I have. My supplier of one of my best-selling items has decided we're now going to like, I don't know, the luxury soldering station business or the high-end market. There's no item for me to buy at a low tariff rate once if this were to subside entirely.
Interesting. So when I sit here and I scream about it, again, I have the nice life of just being in my basement screaming about stupid shit. Do you not have any more visibility into what's going on than I do? I mean, it's one thing when I read CNN or BBC or Engadget and I don't know what the fuck's going on with tariffs. But you actually buy, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in goods. And are you saying you have no more transparency than I do into this?
I probably would if I looked into it and cared to, but I don't even care to. And now I don't even have a reason to because the person that I would be buying this stuff from said we're not selling this anymore anyway. Like I remember asking him, I was about to make an order. And then I had to ask, okay, so this comes to me. So usually the way it would work is a boat would arrive and then I would have to arrange a freight forwarder to send it to me. But every time I bought from this particular vendor, I would buy the stuff and then they would ship it to me UPS afterwards. So I was asking, okay, wait, so if this giant tariff comes on, like, am I paying that or are you paying that? Because if I buy and he says, well, no, we would pay that. And I said, okay, so let's say that he raises the tariff at this point at this date. Is the tariff effective on the date that he does it or the date that the boat left China? Like, how does all that stuff work? And when he says, I don't know, I would say, okay, so here's another important question for you. If I pay you 25,000 for this and the rate goes up, are you going to want another 20,000 before you send it to me? And I didn't get a response to that email. And it's like, I don't want to look into it at that point. I don't care to look into it at that point. I have an answer. And the answer that I got is I need to get the fuck away from anything even remotely that is remotely affected by this. Like it, like that's the answer that matters. When I get a slow response to that particular email, that's when I say, okay, bye-bye.
Damn.
I probably could if I wanted to. It's not even worth it. The only answer that I needed for myself is I raised the price on one of the items that I was selling and nobody bought it anymore. And that's when it was like, I know what I need to know. That if the risk falls on the side of me getting a letter saying I owe an additional 10K or something, that I will lose a bunch of money. So don't do it.
Christ. So because you've still got the Mac repair business, like how many Macs are you still repairing a day or per week?
A lot of it is data recovery now because
Oh,
when I started doing this, I could buy a donor board and I could grab parts off my donor board, and that donor board would cost $5 or $10, and I could buy the chips for them. Now I can't buy donor boards anymore. There was a great article in the information. It's amazing, and it talks about how people were literally digging tunnels underneath the Foxconn factories to sneak stuff out. So you'll have boards that are dead or that they just didn't meet quality assurance, and Apple winds up grinding them up into dust. And there'll be people that say, "Huh, that's kind of wasteful." Around 2017 and 2018, I noticed that all the donor boards I was getting, I wouldn't get a full donor board anymore. I would get a wing, a breast, a thigh. They were always cut up, and I didn't understand why that was. And then I learned it's because they were shoving it in their underwear, at which point I started washing the boards with the ultrasonic and wearing gloves when I took them out of the box. But that entire chain is gone. So for me to get, so there are repairs where I'll have to buy a board for $350. I'll have to
yeah.
buy a donor for $300 to get a chip for something I'm not certain I can fix. So a lot of it is really turning into data recovery. That company is pivoting into your hard drive is clicking, your solid state drive controller died, your micro SD card snapped in half, that type of thing. MacBook stuff, like I can't get most of the parts that I need to do my job. So that's less of the business at this point. I'd like to see if I can pivot it into something that does what either drive savers or secure data do, but just without ripping people off.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is there still that much money in data recovery in 2025?
Yes, human carelessness was never going to go away. The,
Okay.
the amount of time people say like I had this cloud backup and it's like, oh, I didn't set it up to copy things. Oh, I forgot. Human carelessness is as old as time. That's never going away.
Fair enough. So still talking about the administration with this stuff. So is there anything that this administration is doing since you're in this right to repair world, whether you like him or not? Is there anything that he's doing where you're like, damn, that's actually good? Like anything for right to repair?
I know that in the 2021, Joe Biden had an executive order on, and one of the things in it was right to repair for the military, and that just kind of went away and just it just went away. And I know the Secretary of the Army spot talked about it, the Secretary of the Navy talked about it, and they're actually one of the senators that won in Montana and beat the Republican Tim Sheehy is co-sponsoring this bill with Elizabeth Warren, which is a very interesting team, and that are going that is a right to repair bill for the military. I don't know where that will go. It is far too early to tell, but it does seem like at the very least they're trying to push that forward. I don't know if that's like Trump saying, I care about right to repair, make this happen, or if that's just an accident or somebody getting pissed. I think it's probably somebody who's in the administration just realized we have two like out of eight ovens on this ship, two or three of them work. What the fuck, man? And like it's something like that from what the Secretary of the Navy was saying. I don't know if it's him doing it or the administration, but it that's one thing. And when you sneak in right to repair in this area, it's easier to get people to realize it's a problem. When people realize it's a problem, it's easier to then get them to agree with it and push for it in other areas. I don't know how that'll go.
Fair enough. But I mean, is there anything out of the Republicans? Because I mean, that is one of the arguments is we can get so much cheap crap from China that we just keep buying that, and then all this stuff goes into our trash and creates our landfills. So if China's more expensive, then maybe people will repair more. Like, I don't know. That sounds like MAGA. I don't, are you seeing anything out of Republicans, out of Texas, out of any help?
Texas made a right to repair bill that excludes almost everything. It excludes game consoles, it excludes vehicles, it excludes tractors, it excludes marine equipment. So there's this one woman that actually sent me a boat. It was a pirate ship for my pond. It had a little pirate ship and a little Rossmann Group logo in my koi pond, and it broke in the mail because she packaged it well, but the post office really just annihilated that thing. And I said, she sent me a second one. The second one was broken too. And I said, you really have to package this better because the Texas right to repair bill excludes marine equipment and shit, and boats. It literally excludes almost everything. I don't think that it was a tariff thing would make sense to me if it came with a plan, but it doesn't actually have a plan. If they said, well, yeah, I get that people are not investing in making things here. So how about this? If you do all of your building in America and you get approved by this particular process, we will be the lender of last resort and fund a business loan for you for something that no sane bank is going to fund if you make your things in America. And we're going to have this crazy high tariff. Sounds like a plan. If you're going to say, there's a number of different things that you could do, or would say, I don't know if I agree with this, but at least you have a plan. And there's no plan. There's just tweeting at 3 a.m, rage tweeting about like big tariff on this and low tariff on that. And I really just think it's based on whether or not somebody appeases his ego. And that's not particularly helpful. But even if it's something I don't agree with, if you have a plan, I can at least look at it and say, okay, let's see how this turns out. I don't see a plan. It does not talk about, because the thing is, if let's say that a tariff is 100%, 120% tomorrow, 50% today, whatever it is, 0% tomorrow, and it could go up and down like that. There's no sane person is going to say, let's fund Lewis's make hot air stations in America factory,
Hmm.
right? Because like that would be a stupid investment because there's no stability. So if the government said, we will come up with a program that provides structure and funding to people who want to do manufacturing in America, or like if they at least asked, how can we get more manufacturing in America? How do we get that done? What are the pain points to doing it? And then implemented a tariff, like that makes sense. I did a 40-minute video going over from a business point of view why this makes no sense and what could make sense. I don't remember most of the points that I made, mostly because I haven't gotten lunch yet, and it's like 95 degrees out here. It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like it doesn't. Maybe I'm stupid and maybe I'm missing something, but none of it seems to make any sense to me.
No. I mean, in your world, are you seeing any manufacturing that you care about being brought, especially Texas, because Texas is supposed to be the hot place other than the temperature. Are you seeing like any new things coming out of American companies that like, oh, that wouldn't have happened a year ago?
No,
Okay.
I mean I have a small view. I don't think my view is that of everybody. I don't think I see everything, but I don't. Everything that I buy is made in another country still for the most part. And like when the biggest thing is when people say, "Well, why don't you buy stuff made in America?" Or why are you complaining about that? And it's like, bitch, who brought me something to fix that was made in China? You know why I get parts from China? Because the shit that you brought me to fix was fucking made in China. That's why. It's like the craziest thing is when people complain about that to me. It's like, you brought me something that was made in China. And then when I say that I have to import parts from China to fix something that is made in China, you're like, why make it here? Like, I don't know. Buy a Tandy. I don't know. Was Tandy made in America? Maybe Tandy was made in America. Were
Back
they?
in the day, back what, 82 or something, yeah.
Buy the computer that Trump used to write MS-13 on the guy's knuckles with Mike. Was that because people were saying that was Photoshop? I thought that was Microsoft Paint. That wasn't even Paint. That was something on a Tandy 3000. Whatever the default JPEG editor was on a Tandy 3000. But like, I don't, yeah. I don't think there's any plans. And I think like for me to sit there and try to analyze it and say, what is the master plan is kind of silly because like it's not a plan. It's making shit up as you go. And then
Fair
it,
enough.
I'm not going to try to make sense of it. My personal trainer would call that, like, he always says that I process bullshit, and for me to just like sit there and try to make sense of this,
Yeah.
it's like an old dude rage tweeting at 3 in the morning. Like, if I see it as that, it makes total sense. Because if I see it that way, I'm not going to drive myself nuts going down this stupid little rabbit hole of how can I make my business work around it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the areas of my business where I don't have to care about that shit, like data recovery, and say, fuck focusing on the part of this business where I have to worry about that shit. Like finding affordable gear that I could sell to the next upstart Louis Rossmann so that he doesn't have to wait 4 years to buy his first hot air station. I cared about that before. Now I don't because you've made it dangerous for me to care about that. So,
So switching gears just a little bit then. So I saw, so you posted you're going to be a speaker at the Ideas Citizen Summit. One of the things I thought was interesting and cute there is that it's for distinguished thought leaders. Now, this is curious
that
because
is not that's not my that was a
what's
PR person that that's a PR person that doesn't log into my account.
well, it's a PR person. But here's the thing. What's cute for me is so like I answered your question back in like 2012 about whether you should do videos or whatever. And so you've been exploding since then. How how does it feel to be a distinguished thought leader or something along those lines? So like we've known each other now for 13 years, and so you've gone from where you were to where you are. Like how does it feel to be a real person now? Like I know you have very much that underdog like life view. Like how has it been to get out of the underdog life view, or are you still an underdog?
I think I'm an underdog. It's just I'm like it's a different type. It's like when I have $10,000, I'm trying to solve $1 million problem. If I have $1 million, I'm trying to solve $100 million problem. I have $100 million, I'm trying to solve a $5 billion problem. It's like I definitely changed at least around 20 in 2013. I think that's when I changed the idea of look at how far I've become in spite of to look at how far I am. What can I do next? That mindset definitely changed a lot in 2013, and it was really necessary for me to change that mindset. To say because it's very easy to have this thing where I say, look at how far I got in spite of,
Yeah.
and give and use that as the reason to not keep going and try new stuff and try and grow and try things where I may look like an idiot, but there's a potential for me to learn something and become better. It's easy to do that if I have that qualifier at the end. When I get rid of the qualifier, then it becomes easy to feel comfortable trying a lot of different new things. That post on LinkedIn, I think I deleted the interview that I was involved that I did because it was, oh my God, that's another thing for when the stream is over.
Oh.
The PR person whose contract is up on July 23rd apologized for that for that one. It was a mean. I don't use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where boomers spam each other. It's just it's
Okay.
just, and 99% of the posts on LinkedIn are AI generated anyway. And they don't even bother doing shit like deleting the M dash, replacing with a normal dash. You should always, it's not XYZ, it's ABC with DEF. It's like this kid.
All right, fair enough. So do you feel pretty comfortable in your own skin? Because I mean, I think that's the thing. Like a lot of, I don't know, my students, my viewers, whoever the hell these people are, like when you go from being 18 to being 30, like it's it's hard from going from being the employee to becoming the boss. Have you had issues with that, like along the way?
Definitely. I learn lessons and I try to learn. I learned lessons in my old company that I'm trying to make sure I don't relearn with the first nonprofit that I started. Yeah, there are definitely lessons that I've learned. Like like I know when I haven't. I learned a lot. Yes. I think in the beginning it was I didn't want to be the out of touch boss, so I wanted to make sure that there were so many times where I knew I was correct in what I was thinking, but I had to. I have a really bad analogy for this. I'm gonna fake. Okay, but an accurate one. So in a relationship, there were many times where I would not end the relationship where I knew it wasn't working because I had to know like what is it, right? Like what, and then it's like, I figured like it's like with a motherboard, it's an ego thing where I can't give a motherboard back to a customer if I can't tell them what's wrong with it. Because when they say, why can't you fix it? If I say I don't know, I look like such a fucking moron. And I can't, they're gonna look at me like, I can't believe I wasted time bringing this to you. So if I know why it can't be fixed on layer 4, there is a crack in this port of the PCB. There is where PM sleep S4L goes to the CPU. And if I run a wire, there's going to distort the clocks or something. I can give it back to them and say, I'm sorry, I can't fix it. I give up. But I need to know why. And at some point in my late 20s, I realized I did that with my relationships where I instead of just saying this ain't, this ain't it for me, I have to know why. And I remember I would do that with ideas or employees. Like I would feel weird if I was letting somebody go and I said, and they say why, and I go, I don't know. But like there are items where it would take me 2 or 4 weeks to be able to properly process and write down why this is bad. Malcolm Gladwell has a book on this. It's called Blink. And he talks about how there's the gut reaction and how your gut reaction is not actually stupid. You are actually thinking. It's just using a different part of your brain that processes different information, and you'll be able to write down rationally why you thought or felt the way you did 2 weeks later or 4 weeks later. But by then it's kind of too late. So I would always feel weird, like shook-handing an idea or saying this is a stupid idea. This is because I didn't have the reasoning immediately, and like I've learned to trust myself a little more and feel okay with the fact that if I'm saying yes or no to something, I've learned to feel okay with it and not feel like I can't I not look at it the way I would as an employee where I'm thinking, well, if this person said yes or no to this, I would be mad. I'll be honest and explain it. I honestly think that's a bad way of spending our time. I will be able to tell you why later. This just seems like let's go to the next one. And I won't care if that person thinks he just crapped on my idea for no reason. And then when 2 weeks pass later, I'll realize, oh, this is the exact reason why that was bad. This is why we should never have done that. I'm so glad we didn't do that. And I can journal it. And then it makes it easier for me later on to explain why that was for the next time that something like that happens. But yeah, being okay with being a dick. Like I try to be polite if I feel like I'm being a dick, but being not thinking I have to do things for the benefit of the mission of the organization rather than doing it for the benefit of I don't want to do or say something that would have pissed off employee Louis, if that makes sense.
That's fair enough. Was there a breaking point with learning that you had to be a dick, or was it a slow dickishness that came upon you?
Yeah, probably the death of my first company when I realized that this is if I don't have things going in the right direction, that the cost of it is losing an opportunity. I had to feel that when Rossmann Supply Group died around 2013, 2014. Like it felt like I lost a pet. I put every single hour of every single day into this one particular thing, and I have nothing to show for it. It's not even like it's like it's not even that I have less money than I did before. Because with my repair company, even if I put all this time and let's say I lost all the money I ever made over the past 15 years, I could at least say people know how to fix things that they may have not known before because of me. Or I could say, here is the impact. Or I could read these emails from people that said, I tried fixing my home thermostat because of you and it worked. And then I became an electronics engineer and now I have a job. It's really cool. And thank you for inspiring me. That's there. With that company, when I see that there's literally this time of my life is just fundamentally wasted, it's just gone and there's nothing to show for it of productivity. That made me realize that that's worse than not growing up and becoming a boss.
Damn. Yeah, fair enough. So kind of wrapping up then, I guess a question, how is your YouTube channel going? How do you feel about YouTube in 2025? Because I see you're up to 2.25 million subscribers.
I do videos on things I care about. Nobody watches. I do videos on things that are throwaway. I get millions of, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It makes no sense. Because I caught a pedophile last month or a month and a half ago. There was some guy that was like bricking people's software. This is great because when you couldn't come up with a better villain for when I started this nonprofit if you tried to. So he was bricking people's software. He was banning them for all these random reasons, which is a great example if you bought the software but you don't actually own it. He would ban you if you had the Rust toolkit on your computer. There was so many different stupid things that he would scan your computer, see what's on it, and then ban you for these crazy reasons. I thought he's doing business under a different name than his. I'm gonna find out that maybe he's a basic tax cheat, right? I'm gonna email, I'm gonna say, hey man, like why are you doing this? And then he's gonna get the implication that I'm gonna report him to the government, and then after that he just like unbans everybody.
Mhm.
And he's a pedo. He's a pedo who spied on and fucked with underage girls, and he was turning on their webcams and he was recording them and then all this other shit and then blackmailing them. And it's like, dude, yeah, anyway, like, that was weird. So that was like a 2 week detour into that was a strange one. Yeah, I mean, right now my YouTube channel, I just upload videos on the stuff that's on my mind. If you don't like what's going on this week, usually it's like normal thing with autism. Just come back in 2 weeks and I'll probably be done discussing the thing that you're tired of hearing me talk about.
That's fair enough. But I mean, like 2 million subscribers. Do you take YouTube seriously yet? How big do you have to be before you take YouTube seriously
I believe the moment I take YouTube seriously is the moment it goes away.
yet?
With my
Okay.
luck, I don't know how to take YouTube seriously. I think I upload, I produce the stuff that I feel. It's one of these weird situations where I don't know if I'm successful because of who I am or in spite of it. Like, do people come to if I started taking my channel like quote seriously and just having a schedule? Because I've tried this. Like I have somebody who was helping me with trying to get news coverage for certain items that we've talked about on the for FULU. She said, like, well, how would you do what if you made a video on this day about this and that video about that and that day on this? And I can't do that because I just sit down and it's like the video would come out like shit, or this is not a topic that's particularly interesting to me. It just doesn't work. So like, my way of taking it seriously is just making sure that I produce something that I would actually want to watch. So when I'm riled up and excited to do a video on something, I do it. And is this something that I would actually want to watch? But I don't have a content schedule where it's I must do a video on this topic today and I must do a video on that topic tomorrow and I must do that because it just it doesn't work, and the stuff that comes out just comes out like complete shit.
Fair enough.
Uh,
So have you learned much like with YouTube? So you've been doing this for a long time now. And like I look at people like Marquez Brownlee or Austin Evans or Linus, and it seems like if tech went away tomorrow, they could pivot to showing you how to make flower arrangements or whatever. It seems like so much of what they do is as much technically about framing shots and color correction and all that as anything else. Do you feel like you've become like professional with YouTube, or are you just still just talking into a camera? Like,
I
could you
think
create a Young Turks for the I don't know, the politics of right to repair or whatever?
uh probably not. Like with the business, if I died, my business would continue to run continuously until I guess it's killed off by the natural forces of anti-repair. But with my YouTube channel, it's the exact opposite. If I don't, it's not run the way you're supposed to run a business, right? Like a business is supposed to be, if the business goes away, if the owner dies, it still runs. My YouTube channel would be gone if I. Are you talking about if I wanted to talk about a different topic other than the ones I do now, or are you talking about my channel if like if I died, would it continue?
Well, like it's more like, have you learned, how do I put this? Are you somebody that just talks about tech in front of a camera, or have you learned to be a creator? Like, I don't know, if you wanted to go and travel the seven seas and do things and talk about that, would you feel comfortable doing that? Or, creating some other product that happens to be in the YouTube world?
Probably not. I don't think so. I think that this is all just cult of personality. I think it's an algorithmic. I, I, yeah, I don't know how to properly answer that.
Oh,
I
fair.
think like when you talk about parasocial relationships and people just watching and just viewing and going, and like they leave 90. Have you ever had this thing where somebody leaves 10 or 20 comments in one day going back through your back catalog and you look through your phone at the YouTube Studio app and you're like, oh
Yeah,
God, this person's developing a relationship with me. Oh fuck, how do I stop? And you can't stop it
yeah,
because in real life you'd be able to walk away, but you can't. And that, I mean, I understand why I'm successful on YouTube. I think that I have a way of presenting things that resonates with people. I think that I'm always able to find the angle for why it is something is interesting. And, or if there's an item that's not been covered in the news or the media, it's you didn't find the story that I found, and I found the way to tell it in a way that was interesting to people.
yeah.
I definitely, yeah, I could see like 80,000 subscribers from that. 2.2 million, that's just, I don't know, that's a meme. But I understand what makes me valuable as a content creator. And as time has went on, I realized that with me finding the stories that I find is why I've been able like to push right to repair to where I have. It's why I've been able to do the fundraising that I have. It's how I've been able to get a lot of people to give a shit about things they otherwise wouldn't be able to give a shit about. And maybe why I'll be able to get people to collectively help me push back against either laws that go against ownership or companies that try to push an anti-ownership agenda in general. I've heard other people talk, and I didn't really appreciate this for myself. It sounds egotistical, but I don't give a shit. Until I would hear other people talk about some of the issues that I care about. It wasn't until that happened that I realized, oh, now I get it. Like, okay, 2 million subscribers is a crazy number. But when I listen to somebody else describe a particular issue that I care about, and I listen to this mishmash, just this, like, I would not watch this. And there are some of my videos where I think, I hate this person, but I will watch it It's kind of the Howard Stern thing, and that works. And people that hated Howard Stern watched him for an hour. People that liked Howard Stern watched him for a half hour. Like when there are certain when I look think about, let's say, the Knicks Play CEO video, right? There are many ways that somebody could phrase what Knicks Play did when they took away your ability to connect your digital picture frame to certain sources without paying them additional money. When they changed the terms of the sale, there are many outlets that cover that. I made it interesting, and there's a
Yeah.
value to that, and I understand how I make things interesting, and I realize that me like that when you ask about becoming a software developer uh, or becoming a like a dev person, like that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to take topics that are being ignored and figure out a way to make the story interesting to people so that they're going to care about something that matters that they otherwise may have looked over. And I'm here to organize people around a villain. I'm here to make that's what I'm good at. It's and I enjoy it. And what I was doing with Apple products and doing tech is I'm not a technician. I'm not a tech person. I remember telling my friends when I was a teenager, if I try to fix computers or program for a living, do me a favor and kill me. Because this is not what I wanted to do with my life. Even when I was a technician at Avatar Studios, I was there because I wanted to make music. I wanted to be a recording engineer. I was good at fixing things, but I didn't. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to, yeah, like I like fixing things is simply a vehicle to deal with a company to kick a bully in the shins. Like becoming a technician was a vehicle to kick somebody in the shins. Apple wants to say that these things are not fixable, and that if somebody says they can fix it, they're scamming you. Okay, let's show how true that is. Let's see if that's real. Let's see, and getting people excited about it and having that little journey, go into the rights repair journey and the ownership journey and everything else was a, like that was a catalyst for it. But that's not like I'm not 5 or 10 years from now, I think the average person is not even gonna have a clue that I know how to use a soldering iron, and that's okay. And I may forget how to use a soldering iron in 5 or 10 years, and that's okay too.
Fair enough. So the final question then. So I know when I do my videos sometimes, I feel like I probably come off a little too harsh on people. But I don't know, maybe this is the answer to say that you want a villain. Like, because I was scrolling through your back catalog and whatever your last thing with Linus Sebastian of Linus Tech Tips popped up. And I think about that. You were going after him for some reason. Do you ever feel like, do you ever regret going after people or villains or kicking people in the shins maybe a wee bit too hard? Or is that kind of just your shtick? Like, is there anything?
I deeply regret the Linus video for not the reasons that you would think. That goes back to the scheduling thing. I
Okay.
did that. I didn't have my studio lights on because I was sick, and looking into the camera actually, like looking into the lights bothered me. So I did a video. That goes back to the schedule thing, doing a video on a schedule. I don't look down on that video because I disagree with what I said. I look down on that video because I broke the rule, the fourth wall. You don't tell people what to think. I'm not here to tell people what to think. I'm here to tell people what I see and then let people come to their own conclusion. In that video, I was telling you to come to my conclusion, and that's wrong. You're not supposed to do that. That's not what people watch my stuff for. That's not why people follow me. I'm not supposed to tell you what to think. I'm not supposed to tell you who to vote for. I tell you what I think. And I broke that rule in that video. And that's something I should be deeply ashamed of. I agree with everything I said. I do not really like, I don't hate Linus. I don't even intensely dislike him. I don't respect him. I don't respect the dereliction of responsibility or accountability. If somebody like when I hear him saying like people may not, people would throw me from the nearest, what was he saying? Like hang me from the nearest tree, throw me off a boat or something if I said something about this because it would sound like I didn't want people to use him to save the money. It's like I don't care. You took the money to advertise a particular product. And now it's your job to go up to your audience who you took the money to advertise the product, right? Now you go to that audience and you say, here's what we learned about them. And then you let your audience make that decision for yourself. So ironically, I was doing the same thing that I am not supposed to think for my audience. I'm supposed to give you the information so you think for yourself. I failed at that in that video, which is ironic because that's what I'm blaming Linus for. But what Linus was doing is he was saying, I'm not going to give you that information. And then he started saying, well, people already knew that because there was a tweet out that had like 7 likes on it or something. And I'm just thinking, like, just take some accountability, take some responsibility, man. I fuck up shit all the time. I told people that they should look at Repair Shopper. I did 2 or 3 videos saying I recommend you need the software. Now it sucks. You know how much I got paid for recommending that? Nothing. So why is it that I have a higher standard for the information that I'm going to provide my audience when I'm wrong about something or when new information comes to light about something that I told them to use? When I get paid zero, than you do for when you're getting 5 or 10 or 30 or $60,000. I mean, if you're gonna take the money, it comes with a certain level of accountability and responsibility. And what bothers me is that whether he's smart in other areas, and that's why he makes a lot, or he's lucky, regardless of what it is, 99.99999% of the people that watch Linus's content are not people who, if they ignore accountability and responsibility in their own life, are gonna do well for it. If you or I do not take accountability, responsibility for our actions, we're not going to have a company worth, most likely not going to have a company worth $100 million. We're probably not going to be famous. We're probably not going to have legions of sponsors lining up to give us $10 to $60,000 for sponsored videos, right? The average person who watches that content, I don't like I hate to use the I word. It's disgusting. And I have a whole video on the concept of the influencer, but like if as people do kind of look up to us, and I'm not saying that means that we're not supposed to curse or we can't have bad days or anything like that, but taking accountability and responsibility for the things that you do rather than hide away from them. That's an example that I think is important to set for people, especially young people, which is a lot of people who watch that channel. Setting that example that you just can just hide. It's a bad example to set. It bothered me. And that's aside from the fact that like once I saw the oh, you sent a text, you went out of your way to send a text message to a phone number that oh that you don't use, and that's the one that you're gonna show on screen a year later to make them look oh like I grew up with that Darvo shit. Like I know, I'm not gonna get into that in this, but that just what's that brother ill mean? But the point is, uh, in that particular instance, I regret telling people what to think. I did that video was horrible. Like that video should have been 5 minutes and it would have been very well done if I had waited. And that goes back to what I was saying about impulse control. Like if I had my impulse control, I'd say, well, I'm gonna wait until I feel better to do that video and then it'll come out well. No, I can't do that. I have to do it immediately.
Fair
And it's
enough.
like it's the same thing. Sometimes in my life it does me very well, and sometimes in my life it does me not very well.
Do you have any limits though? Because it will wrap up the final, but like on shin kicking, do you know how hard you'll kick a shin? Like, do you only kick a shin in your Nikes and not your combat boots, or you just kick shins just as hard as you feel like that day?
Yes. No, I've it has I try to have a very high bar for a bully that I don't yeah. I think it's usually I have a bar. Yeah, because like there were organizations that were asking me where that guy lived when the pedophile guy that
Oh,
was caught. There were Australian tabloids that were calling me to ask about it. And once they got into like, because like I know where the guy lives. I know exactly. I needed to know as much information as I could because if I'm going to accuse a business owner of being a pedophile with 2 million subscribers, I better be fucking correct. So I did my damn due diligence on that shit. But
no.
when they called, you know what? Like, there's a limit even from like I'm not doing that. That was my I don't know why that was the line. I don't know. It's a gut thing.
Oh,
That was the line.
fair enough. All right, so we've had you for slightly over 2 hours, so I need to let you go do whatever else you're doing today. Is there anything you want to tell the folks watching? Any great advice to leave them with?
I don't know. Other than I think if you tell the truth, you have to believe that whatever happens is the best possible thing, even if it's absolutely horrible. So if you tell the truth and something very bad happens, I live my life based on this assumption that even if what happens is really, 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 really bad, it's actually better than what would have otherwise occurred. And it takes a lot of faith in order to do this. And you probably have to be a little bit crazy for it. And the thing I'm learning as I get a little older is that this is not a world that rewards people for being sane all the time. It doesn't reward you for being completely crazy, but it doesn't reward you for being completely sane either. Because a lot of people that think that I'm smart are actually people that just I think are have their head screwed on better than I am. And when I think about this very, very hard, and I look through their decisions and how they made them and what they missed out on, I realize that the world doesn't necessarily reward people who are completely sane. I'm not saying to be insane, but just the one piece of insanity I would give you is tell the truth, even if you think what happens will be bad. It's better than what would have happened otherwise. And don't do the whole like I didn't lie, I just withheld the truth either, because that's cheating. That's bullshit. You can't do that either. You don't have to be a dick. I mean, I'm not saying to be a dick about it and scream at people and talk down to them or anything like that, but just believe if you tell the truth, what happens is the best possible thing. And if what happens is bad, then just try more things.
Fair enough. Well, thanks for being on the show. For everybody else, so this will get encoded and put up to YouTube in probably a couple of hours, as long as there's not any issues. We do these, fireside chats. We're doing two this week. So we've done Lewis, and on Thursday we're doing David Cox. He's the VP of AI models over at IBM. And that's about it. So I'm going to start shoving you all in the waiting room so you can go away. So this is all done as far as you all are concerned. I'll keep talking with Louis for a couple minutes. See y'all later.